Admit. There we go.
Okay, I'm not gonna join with audio or anything,
Okay.
so we can test that. But
You want me to change the view to, I don't know, multi-speaker? Just gallery.
That's fine.
Can we end it? Yeah,
Uh,
no, pause.
yeah, I'd say just pause it.
Unmute and unvideo. Or show video.
Oops, can you?
There you are.
That good?
Yeah, that works.
Okay.
Howdy,
All
hi.
right. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
And you might want to repeat the community expressions, I'm sure people.
Okay. The next item will be community expression, an opportunity for members of the audience, either in person or by Zoom, who would like to address the board on a matter which is not on the agenda and for which we can take no action, but we're willing to entertain a relatively brief discussion on any matters you wish to bring to the board's attention. Is there anyone who has a community expression item? None appearing, we will go on to the next category on our agenda, which is discussion items. Number one is the manager's update. Take it away.
Okay. Okay, so here's the update for August 21st, 2024. We will start with the water supply memo. So we received no water in July, and just to remind you guys, the data here is kind of boring because we're starting the year over. So this is the July is the first. Oh, that's kind of annoying, Wendy. Sorry. Let's see if I can.
I can read it. I'm
Okay.
surprised there's not a BCPUD New Year celebration.
Is that, sorry, I think it's, we can deal with it next time, but
Yeah, that's great.
it's okay. And so, yeah, so this is the start of the new rain year, starting July 1, and so we're basically just looking at the first month. And it wasn't the most entertaining month as far as rain because we had no rain. So, and so then, you know, all of these graphs are looking kind of like not that interesting. Here's a green dot of where we are. And it also means that when we look at sort of our models, they're also kind of silly at this point, right? So basically you can see that most Julys, we don't have any rain. And so, you know, this month, this last July is sitting somewhere like here, whereas whatever year this was, they had 3 inches of rain. But yeah, this obviously, this is the kind of progression analysis that we normally show, where we're sitting at a certain amount of rain at that point in the year, and based on that amount of rain, we're predicting how much rain we'll have over the course of the year. So basically, we don't have a lot of data, so we're just thinking, okay, well, we're expecting the average amount of rain this year. So that's where we're sitting, predicting, you know, like 30, how many inches, 31 inches, and that's just essentially because that's the average amount you get. And then we can also do that analysis, which again is kind of moot at this point, but basically 33% of years over our historical data set have had rain, so they have more rain than zero. That's essentially what that's saying. Moving on to the Arroyo Hondo and creek flows. So again, we haven't been collecting a lot of data to really substantiate the model this year. But just based on the previous data set, you know, we're still looking above what we were in these, you know, drought years. And we are estimating that the average flows by the end of that should say July, sorry. Average flows by the end of July were modeled at 140. This is below flows at the end of June, which were at 170. And then we can predict that, you know, the flows will be down to 115 by the by August or end of August. But still, you know, obviously that's expected as we, you know, enter into less and less rain, but we haven't had to use the reservoirs. Okay, this is really dorky, but I thought it's,
So cool.
yeah, so anyways, no, you'll see it is very dorky. But this is, can you guys hear that? That's great. You need better audio. I- That's Evan. And this is, that was the lower dam, obviously you can read that, and this is what the upper dam looks like right now. So, it's not super impressive, the amount of water there, but still, it's good, the fact that it's actually spilling over at this point in the year. Just to let you know, though, if we were drawing at this point, you would see the level go down. We're drawing from the lower dam right now. When we produce water, treat water. And as we draw, you can start to see the water level go down from the lip of the dam. And that's the point where we could actually be collecting empirical data to be testing Rob's models. We haven't done that yet, but you know, hopefully we'll start doing that. Okay, this is now just looking at the volume stored in the reservoir. Again, it's not super pertinent. We're still sitting at a high level. They stopped spilling about a month ago, and we're not using them. Here is our production and consumption. In July, water production in the district averaged 115,000 gallons per day. And this is up from June production, which was at 91,000 gallons per day. Water consumption in July averaged 116 gallons per day, and that equated to 200 gallons per day per connection. This is up from June consumption, which averaged around 90,000 gallons per day. And which equated to 150 gallons per day per connection. And this is just something that I said I would add, which is basically, okay, well, this is, you know, remember I was saying, I want to clean up this data and only look in hindsight of the previous month, but still there's validity for us to just understand, especially as we move into kind of more drought conditions. Well, what happened? You know, what is consumption looking like in the, you know, immediate vicinity of the meeting? And we're looking like we're coming down a little bit from that high of 200 in July down to back what we were looking at in June, so that's good.
Can you go back one slide?
Not easy.
Not easily. Well, as far as the reservoir levels, so if we're not drawing from the reservoirs, is that just evaporation that's causing them to go down so much?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming so.
they're not spilling and we're not
They're
drawing,
not,
so it's just,
no, I mean, once they spill, that's basically it, right, then. They
they
don't
don't
spill
get bigger,
anymore.
yeah, okay.
I read one, I think it was, Lake Tahoe in the summer loses 330,000 gallons a day from evaporation. So I think a lot happens very quickly in the sun.
Sorry, I'm really. I can hold it, confused. I have to get out of there.
Grace has her hand up, is that right?
Oh, it is, yeah.
Oh,
Hi, Grace.
I don't, hi there, I don't have my hand up. I'm not sure
I think it's-
why it looks like I do.
Okay,
Sorry about that.
all right, just wanted to make sure you weren't being ignored.
It's the, yeah,
Thank you.
Okay,
Jack, do you guys have a forum?
yeah, the three of us.
I read.
oh, sorry, guys. Let's go on here. Let me just go into this mode. It doesn't want to advance. Okay, so we were right here. I'll try to get back into this. Okay. So this is that other data set, yeah.
But we can't see it on the screen.
Let's see. I'm sorry, guys.
Your location. There.
Okay, and then it's pretty tiny, but hopefully it won't. Is that, can you guys see?
Yeah, it's great.
Okay, so this is that data that you guys are now used to. Just to let you know, we were sitting, I think the last time you guys saw it, we're behind basically because the meter reads take forever, and then to input the data from their paper copies, which is again something that needs to be digitized and streamlined. But basically, last time I showed it to you guys, we were sitting at this green, light green bar here, and now we've added the pink and the blue. So that's April, May, June downtown that have been added as far as, you know, some meter reads. And so moving on. Just quickly, some of the meetings I've attended that are worth mentioning. So residential parking, we met with Rodoni and Daniel Del Monte, who is the deputy county executive. And Fernando Beretta, who is the supervisor aide to Rodoni. It was a helpful meeting, but basically it kind of looks like it's moving a little bit backwards in that the county is pushing for a ordinance as opposed to a resolution to implement the program, which when they explained it made sense. And in terms of it being easier to actually execute and more appropriate for effectively the sheriffs to follow an ordinance as opposed to a county resolution. So there is an upcoming meeting next week in which these same, I think, Daniel Del Monte and members of the parking committee, including Sherry Hirsch, will be doing a walkthrough with him downtown. Bell will be attending as well. Another interesting meeting was a National Rural Water Association. This is a agency that helps small water districts in rural areas. And in particular, this was interesting to me because there's potential for funding through the NRWA via FEMA funding for essentially building resilience to the storm event that happened in 2022-23, for which we received FEMA funding. So that was, as you know, obviously this predated me being here, but my understanding is that we received FEMA funding to clear all of these trees that had come down primarily along the Arroyo Hondo that meant we couldn't access any of our infrastructure. And then because we are eligible for that funding, that essentially unlocks other kind of resiliency funding. So for instance, there's 3 projects that we were looking at that are, have the potential to be impacted in the storm. These are kind of already projects that are on our docket. And so we're kind of just exploring the possibility of whether we could receive funding for them. In particular, it would be rehabilitation of the upper and lower dam, installing a backup generator that would allow us to run the irrigation pumps at the sewer ponds in the event of power outage, and rehabbing the lift station, including replacing the pumps with submersible pumps. So these are all, really expensive. Well, the backup generator, not as much, but these are, big projects that we'd love to receive funding and plus address. Moving on to the operations update, we've had a lot of leaks, which you guys are probably aware of as, customers of the district. It's unfortunate, but I think it's not, we tend to have leaks this time of year, is my understanding. But it's just too bad that a lot of them have been within the county roads, so that means that they are more expensive projects. And then additionally, we had a big leak. It wasn't actually a big leak, but it was on the main, the 10-inch main. That's this picture here, you can see. Fortunately, that main actually doesn't run in the pavement. This is Mesa Road here that this truck is blocking. But it was kind of harrowing in that Stu had never been involved in a whole water shut off. So, it was definitely something that was concerning, and I think the operators did a really great job, and I'm just really proud of how they handled all of it. And yeah, so that's, you can see this is also a picture of Andrew Spalding. Effectively what happened with that water shut off, and probably a lot of customers noticed this, we definitely got a lot of calls about it, that basically a lot of air was introduced into the system with that shut off. And so it just ends up making the water kind of cloudy, because especially if you have like a filtration system or anything that's breaking up those bubbles into tiny little kind of microscopic bubbles. So we had to purge a lot of the water, and that's when we were looking at, purging one of the lines. And we have another small leak on Mesa Road right now that we'll ultimately have to attend to, but
There's a spot if you're like going towards the Lima Mesa Road intersection past the eucalyptus grove that's like wet on the pavement. Do you have any idea what that is?
that's the one I'm talking about. You're talking about right up
Like
here.
right here.
Mhm.
Is that a
Yes, yeah, that's a leak. So it's a small leak, and it's kind of painful to attend to it because you can see it's in the pavement, and so it's gonna be, an outside contracted job. And so we're just kind of like knowing that we have to do it. It also, it requires a little bit of finessing because school's now in session, and that we have to, I think that I was told that there are valves that allow us to, in this situation, draw water actually from downtown to serve the school. But we just need to kind of see exactly the best way to approach that specific leak, but it's not a big leak, fortunately, so we're just, taking our time and making sure we're doing it the right way. This is just a quick update on the well project. We continue to work on these, the well projects that you guys are well aware of at this point. Just to let you know, I contacted Stinson and got this conversation going again, which was essentially, it sort of like was in the rumor mill, as far as I was concerned, because it was so predating my time, was that essentially when this project got underway, the Stinson board said that they would be willing to lend us 3 water tanks that we will need for the construction of that project. And so both Kent and I are new to our districts. And so I was just, reaching out to him, and essentially they're still willing to lend us those tanks. I think it's I'm not exactly sure. I think it was sort of like the height of the pandemic and some procurement issues with so I'm not sure why we wanted to borrow those, as opposed to purchasing them for the project, but I think it's ultimately helpful, and what I've talked to Kent about is actually purchasing them. Because ultimately we'll need those long-term for those projects. It's not like, oh, we need these tanks temporarily to serve the project and then we would give it back to them. And he said, yeah, they'd be willing to sell them to us, so.
Georgia, not only the height of pandemic, but it might have also been severe droughts that we were in for 3 years.
Yes, I think that was sort of the ambitious nature of the project at that point. We thought we were gonna get it done really quickly. That was probably even before we realized that we needed coastal permitting for both of those projects, and everything got kind of bogged down, and then our need was less pressing, and so it just kind of all sort of. But anyways, it's helpful to be able to buy those at cost, and anyway. And then this is last time I told you guys that we were gonna have what is called the aquatic resource management come out, and this was just to paint the picture really quickly. We've had 2 different agencies come and deal with the Zola. We first had aquatic resource management come, but it was one of their first Azola jobs they'd ever done, and they were not super on top of it, and so we ended up paying another company a lot more to do that. And so I was, when we got bids back for this that I brought to you probably at the May meeting or something, they were still, aquatic resource management was a lot cheaper than the alternative that we used last time. So what I was suggesting and recommended at that meeting, what you guys approved, was, well, let's try them again and see, now that they've been working for a few years, are they capable of serving us? Because obviously they're less expensive than the other guys. So that's before and after.
What kind of algae is that again?
It's the Azola is the name of it. And it's, all over ponds, irrigation ponds around here. So anyways, I think everybody's super happy with the job they did, and I'm really happy that it worked out. And basically what our plan is to think about kind of a more proactive management of it, where essentially maybe we could have them come out once a year, and hopefully catch it before it becomes a full bloom. Anyways, that's the kind of idea. I think that the nature of those blooms are such that they're super exponential, so it's kind of hard to catch it at that early stage. You can easily miss it if you're not on top of it, but that's kind of our intention.
There's some concern about it kind of blowing into the reeds and getting caught.
Yeah.
Does that seem to be?
Yeah, I mean, so we talked about, okay, do we want to pay for clearing the reeds, really getting every ounce out of there? My opinion is that there's so many water quality issues with the reservoir right now that's just, and the reeds grow back really quickly. And it's just not a good use of our money. I essentially just wanted to, was recommending that we clear all of that Azola so that we can start to get sunlight in there, so that we don't further just deplete the quality of the water. But I don't think that it really makes sense to kind of meticulously manicure stuff if we're not on it, if it's ultimately gonna come back. And that we have kind of honestly bigger issues with the water quality right there right now, anyway. So yeah, again, that's another I would say big project, is trying to think about a better, kind of more comprehensive approach to improving water quality in the reservoirs. Okay, so quickly, the relocation of water main on Wharf Road. We still plan on pursuing this project on our own as opposed to the alt bid. But the county, and to I think I reported on this last time, but just to remind you, essentially, the county project is kind of stalling. And I don't wanna invest more time and money in this project until I know that they're really pursuing their project. So that's where I'm basically looking for a go signal from the county to pursue our project and basically not really addressing it until I receive that. And we kind of have all of our ducks in a row to like, okay, if they tell us we need to go, then we'll go. But otherwise, we're not like, pursuing it. But I have a meeting next week with the county engineer and we'll find out more about how their project is progressing. A few miscellaneous updates. So the bike path, I will be coming back. I keep promising this, each month. You may remember, but, with a full report next month. But just as a reminder, part of my thinking on why I keep postponing this and not feeling that it's very urgent is that this grant runs through June 30, 2028. And I just don't think that it makes a lot of sense for us to go full bore pursuing that project until the vet folks are here. We see what happens at the level of the tree removal there. I also think strongly what happened is when we started to look at the project as I kind of folded into it, it became clear that we only had a certain amount of money to do portions of the project. And I feel like that is that's problematic and to put a lot of money. I mean, obviously it's grant funded, so we want to use the money. It's not like, let's not do this project. But I want a path in the end that is usable. And I really think that there's value in coordinating with the school and the county around the county road portions of these paths and extending, for instance, the bike path from where it ends at the base of Mesa on Lima Bolinas through downtown. And then we can really address after hopefully, the some of the trees or all of the trees or whatever have been cleared, and then we will, the portion that we're focusing on can really be made nice, and it can be essentially connect to the hopefully other portions that the school through collaboration with the county tapping into the federal funds for the Safe Routes to School program that they're addressing those portions of the path. I feel very strongly. I made a plea. I still sit on the school board for another couple of meetings. And I made a plea at their public comment at the beginning of our meeting that they start to really look at this Safe Routes to School program and the funding there. It's not really appropriate for us to go after that funding. It really should be the school. And I also made a comment in that meeting. I'm going to reiterate it here, which is as an 8th grader in Bolinas, me and my friend were walking down Mesa Road and she got hit by a car. And it was obviously a very traumatic experience for her and for me. And I'm concerned that she lived at the Teixeiras, and there's a lot of students there now. And I'm concerned that when we address our path, that event still would have happened. And so I think that we should really, press the county and the school on extending a path that goes all the way along, really serving students at the Teixeira Ranch. So that's part of my thinking around this. But again, I'll bring back a full report to kind of look at the budget and talk about all of this. But I really think that to me, the bike path is not, it's not even appropriate to address it right now.
No.
Anyways, but I obviously will bring it forward to you guys with a recommendation, and then you guys can make that decision at the September meeting. Okay, so resource recovery, I've been promising some committee work on this, and then I was urging you that it really makes more sense to talk about this internally before we would go out and talk up to the kind of stakeholders. And so Belle and I will be meeting with Chief Krakauer and the Bolinas Fire Admin to kind of talk about what what we think is sort of like our grand vision for how resource recovery can be managed in a more kind of efficient, sensible way, because it takes up a lot of our time. And so, but I'll come back with a report for that.
Does Stinson Beach have a representative?
On that, no, we want to talk internally first and then extend, because and the reason for that is like historically, yes, it would be all of, these Stinson representatives. But in reality, the management right now falls on us and George. And so, that's kind of where we're like, okay, let's think about what that management has looked like over the last couple of years. And kind of formulate a decision and an ask of the other, representatives, and it's like historical representatives. We have our ecology rate review, Jack and Kevin sit on that committee, but I just kind of wanted to give kind of a broader overview. Recology is still pushing us to address this so that they can get an approval for a rate increase in January 1st, 2025. That's already been reported out in public meetings. We'll have an internal meeting with our Recology Rate Review Committee, which is again Jack and Kevin and Jeff Clapp. We will then need to negotiate with Recology to finalize an amended franchisee contract. And in order to have a public hearing at our December 18th, if we are really looking to, accommodate them in terms of, their modifying rates in January, we'd be looking to finalize all of that in December. And just to remind you guys, because this is a rate increase, we'd have to have a Prop 218 notice go out. So that pushes us, back further. So basically, I think what we should be aiming for is for those negotiations to be finalized in the week of October 7th, so that we could bring the Prop 218 notice before the board on October 15th. And essentially, if, let them know, and if there's kind of small modifications they're requesting, that's what we'd be doing. Okay, sorry, I just kind of flying through this, but the last update I have is around the PG&E funded grant for the fire fuel reduction. And I don't know if you guys, technically the path is still actually closed, but just to let you know, I did a walk through there the other day and just took some photos, and it looks really amazing. And they even cut some large trees that were covering the path. And so these are just some photos of what it looks like in there right now. And it's really, really nice. And that big tree that was blocking was removed. So anyways, that's my manager.
Thank you.
Okay.
Next item is public hearings, receipts and notices, and according to the agenda, there are none.
Yep.
Special reports or updates, no action is requested. Number 3, interim use of Alert Marin for BCPUD's emergency alert system, including for notifying users of water shutoffs.
Yeah, so just briefly, this brings back that leak that I'm gonna stop sharing so you can see us again. Okay. This brings back that leak that happened that essentially made us, it was a good learning experience in terms of, wow, we don't really have a means to really disseminate messages to a broader community. And fortunately, that leak, it was only off for like a couple of hours. So I don't know if that's necessarily like the threshold of what is, truly an emergency, but it impacts people, and it's important to have all of our notification system in place. So that's what this item is kind of off the heels of that experience. And essentially what I'm recommending is that we use Alert Marin, and we'll make, a push to, and I'm not presenting this as, approval. I'm basically telling you guys that we'll be using Alert Marin in like the immediate future right now, and we'll push out to people to get people signed up. That's already a notification system that people should be signed up for, because in the event of a fire or anything else. That's the system that, the Office of Emergency Management is, pushing. And, so it's pretty obvious that in the case of, say, a water quality issue where we effectively need to tell people right away, I'll send out a boil water notice or don't drink notice or whatever, that we would be using that system. That obviously raises to the threshold of an emergency. I think that the water shut off the other day also reaches that threshold where effectively we're impacting the entire town's water source. Where it becomes a little bit more kind of nuanced is, okay, well, what if we're, turning off water for 3 hours on, Evergreen? Okay, well, and we're impacting 10 customers or whatever.
Yeah.
Where, how do we want to use this system and how will the county allow us to use this system more importantly? Effectively, this is really an emergency system, and we, essentially we got complaints from people that are like, oh, I have hot water heaters and I would have wanted to know so that, air didn't get into the system and damage my equipment. Well, that's not really reaching the threshold of an emergency, but it's also something that is important for us to obviously have that communication in place so we can, better serve the customers. Anyway, so that's kind of what this item is about. And just to let you know, Stephen Torrance, who's the director of OEM, will be coming out next week to discuss this matter with us. Effectively, what OEM is gonna require of public utilities is for them to enter into an MOU for sort of guiding how people use the system. And it's possible at that point, it will be very clear, no, we can't use this to let, 5 customers know that for 2 hours the water is gonna be out, in which case, we'll have to pursue effectively another method. My reason for wanting to kind of piggyback on OEM for the Alert Marin is that, people have so many apps for all kinds of stuff and it's also obviously cheaper if we don't have to go out and get our own notification system. Anyway, so there's a ton of value in if we can using it, but we just need to be really, either we'll be told you have to use it this way, or we need to, be diligent about effectively using it in a way so that when we have true emergencies, there's still a salience to that message. Any questions? Yeah.
If you have another meeting with Stinson anytime or Inverness, ask them what they use if they have to shut off, have a local water shut off for, a few customers, like imagining when PG&E shuts off my electricity, that I would get a text message.
Yeah.
Either in advance if they know what's happening or, at
Yeah.
the moment, something like that would be really valuable, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that is what Alert Marin will do.
Right, but like you say, I don't think it meets the threshold of an emergency if we're doing maintenance or, if there's a leak that we're fixing for a few customers, certainly the whole town doesn't need to know about it. And that even for those few customers, it may not qualify as a true emergency.
Yeah, I don't think that I don't think that we're gonna get a system, it's just a lot, we're so tiny.
Yeah.
So even if we have a system, it's very unlikely that we'll be able to target, hey, 5 customers on Birch. You're gonna be, you know what I mean? Because then essentially we're writing 5 messages to 5 customers on Birch. That just seems like it's gonna be very difficult to essentially put that on our plates for a whole other thing.
Maybe there's an easy system you can use where you type one message and you click send it to these 10 customers and then off it goes.
Yeah. Aren't there
That's
like,
kind of what I'm imagining.
when you looked into like SMS messaging systems or like just.
Yeah, no, they're available, it's like basically gonna cost money. And it's gonna require us to effectively manage those systems.
How does it happen
How
now?
much do they cost? Yeah.
How does it happen now?
What, if we're shutting off the water to one block, what do we do? Do we call them and tell them?
Yeah, it doesn't,
Yeah.
it's not very good, that's the whole point of this thing, is like, before we figure out what we're gonna, essentially have in place. We already have this in place, we already, essentially leading up to this, what happened is. OEM kind of, and Alert Marin upped their game around all of this, there's Nixle too, and essentially. What the issue with Nixle is, it's not really an emergency platform, and it's also not directed by like districts, right? So Alert Marin has the ability to essentially alert people that sign up and say are interested in the BCPUD district. So you can direct, the messages are more directed in that way. And then, so what they did was, push us to start considering using these for emergencies. And then right at that point, we were looking at our emergency water quality response plan. And I was like, well, why don't we use Alert Marin for that? So we got approval for the water quality notice. And then when the water shut off happened, I basically said, hey, in an interim basis, can we use Alert Marin? And they said, sure. To let you know, we're actually already addressing this through this MOU. And so that got that whole conversation going. But again, I guess, I agree that it would be nice to have the ability to reach, discrete customers that are impacted. I mean, we'll see the practicality and cost of implementing that program. That's basically
Yeah.
what it stands.
Even just like having an email group.
Yeah, so that's the other issue is that I would strongly urge us not to do that because our email is just not very effective. And if we're gonna pursue this, we should, the issue is for us, so for instance, I'm a renter. I don't even get anything from the.
Yeah.
So you wanna direct it towards users, and our email list is super outdated. Not reliable, and also even if it was reliable, we still wouldn't be reaching the people that we need to reach. So, and then the nice thing about Alert Marin is that while you can sign up for BPUD, it has effectively 2 tiers, which is you're in the vicinity of BPUD, you're gonna get those messages. And you leave BPUD, you're gonna get the alert messages if that's like a region of interest. So that's really important, obviously, in our community where we have so many visitors, Airbnb people that are obviously not necessarily gonna sign up for BPUD's emergency alert system. So there's a ton of value in using, I don't think we're gonna get away from using Alert Marin, it's just for these lower tiered emergencies.
Georgia, it may be really useful, speaking as a plumber here, it may be very useful to put in the pipeline that when your water goes out, for any reason, municipally or any other reason, it's very important that you don't back drain, you don't back siphon your water. In other words, you don't wanna leave valves open, because it has a condition about being able to siphon out an electric water heater. Gas is not so dangerous. Electric water heater, and then the water heater is trying to heat up a body of water that is non-existent. So it's a little bit technical, but I think it'd be good if you guys could make a mention of that if there's a non-technical reasonable way to do so.
Yeah, I think the other thing that is important while we disseminate these messages, it's kind of related to what you're talking about, is also understanding it's like the nature of sometimes we have a premonition, like, okay, we're gonna do this repair or we're shutting off water. But obviously the nature of an emergency with the water line could be it bursts and you don't get any water because it's all dumping out before it gets to you. So it's like, it's important to also message, like, as customers become really expectant of this sort of like level of service, it's also like we need to educate them around. There's also the possibility that we can give you no notification and your water's out,
Yeah.
Okay, so that's that item. Any other questions about it? But yeah, I'll obviously bring it back especially after I talk to Stephen Torrance around what the MOU is gonna look like.
Okay, and then go on to item 4.
Yeah, so these are our 2 job postings. They kind of speak for themselves, but I just kind of wanted to let you guys know. I think probably what's most pertinent for this meeting is just to talk about the scheduling So if you go to the end of the applications, it says application deadline to be considered for this first round of interviews, please apply no later than August 23rd, 2024. So, we're looking to, start the interviews. I mean, obviously, we can continue them and depending on, whether we're able to fill the position, extend the application deadline, et cetera, but this is again for the shift operator positions, so this is to replace the shift operator we lost in July. I mean, lost, that sounds terrible, left for greener pastures. Yeah. And then the second job is the full-time administrative aide. And if we go to the application deadline there, it's just kind of basically moved back a week. So to be considered for this first round, please apply no later than August 30th with the interview starting in the week of September 2nd. This will come back up, as I said, the employee and related approvals on item number 26. Where we talk about what those interview committees will look like for this, or what I'm recommending.
All right.
That's, any questions about that?
All right, then we're gonna go to potential for committee updates. I don't know that there are any because they're usually in bold, but I'll quickly state what they are. The volunteer committees are Resource Recovery Committee. And I believe there's no update. Resident Permit Parking Plan Committee. Does anybody have?
No,
Land Stewardship Committee?
no,
And the ad hoc committees would be, excuse me, the Recology, Detailed Rate Review Committee. We've already mentioned that we have our own meeting set to review those rates. The Bike Path Committee, I don't believe there's any.
no,
The Building Committee,
no,
none, and the Canyon Road Committee.
no,
Okay. And then on our standing committees, Personnel
no,
and Finance
no,
and Operations,
no,
Legal,
no,
and Major Septic Flood Control and Roads Committee.
no.
That takes us to action items. These are special reports or updates and action requested, so item 17. The Williams Eucalyptus Project called the BEP request to place fundraising signs on district property.
Yes, okay, so sorry, number 17. Sorry,
Yeah.
1 second. So, based on an email that I received from you guys, I just basically cut and pasted the contents of that email into this item here, and just to let you guys know what that looks like in case you didn't see it, that it was a kind of depiction of what the sign might look like.
Right,
Yeah, if you guys want to just.
can I comment on that?
Please.
I mean, I'm assuming, you guys are here to request it, right?
Well, yeah,
Definitely comment.
yes, okay. Beyond fundraising, it's really more of a informational tool. Because despite our best efforts, including articles in Point Reyes Life and Hearsay News, KWNY Radio, our website, appearances regularly at Bo Civic, a lot of people still do not know about this project. And signage would be a way to get pretty much everybody's eyeballs on the project. Indirectly, it may result in some fundraising, but urgently and importantly, it's kind of critical to get people aware of what the project is and the sign states site of. And so it's way more than just a fundraising tool. So that's my wrap on that. Howard.
Just to say that we would ideally 3 signs at each point of the triangle. So one on the corner where the post office sign is, one down by the resource recovery that you would see coming out of town, and one up on the top end that you would see coming off the mesa. And thus defining the
Boundaries.
the boundaries, as it were.
All right, well, let's see how people on the board feel about that.
And
The
they will
town
be the
having
same,
been-
the same sign,
Yeah,
3 of the same.
unknown aversion to signage in general, and,
I know.
yeah, well, I just kind of add the history, but.
Okay. Is this the final design of the sign, what we have here?
That's what we've settled on for now,
Okay.
if y'all think it's agreeable. I mean, I get the whole aversion to signage. But there again, we need to get the word
Yeah.
out, and short of skywriting.
I think a lot of us share Jack's concern actually, but to us, this is necessary.
Yeah,
What is
Yeah.
the concern again?
3 more signs that go
Oh, I
up,
see.
and, you know, it has more to do with an underlying sort of hostility in the town, so like signage in general. But also, I suppose, it just posting 3 signs on the BCPUD property for a fundraising effort, even though it has to do with raising funds for the land itself. So you just want to sound out the other members of the board. And Grace, if you're listening in, you're glad to, welcome to pitch in on this also.
Thank you.
Would you guys install it? Or would you need the BCPUD to install the sign, posts and everything?
Well, we would organize an effort to dig holes and set posts and install.
Okay.
You know, if it would be less offensive, the word donate could go away. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, if that's an issue at all. I think just having a way for people to get in touch with us and know that something's in the works is the more important element.
Well, let's see. I'll start with you, Andrew. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, my first thought was, why aren't you writing Bolinas Eucalyptus project on the sign?
We decided there was too many words.
Okay,
We didn't want to cause traffic mishaps.
got it.
People read.
And boukes.org is like a link to your website with all the information about the project that you've kind of been
Yeah.
working on.
Oh, this is just the redirect.
Okay, okay.
I wonder if you could put a QR code on there, so people walking by, not that there are a lot of people walking by these days with the bike path closed, but they could donate right there. Possibly.
Good idea.
Might get a few little donations there. Can we take this as an opportunity to reassess the post office sign? And I don't want to go off on a tangent, but maybe we only want 1 sign in this location, not 2.
The good news is, according to Kent, the post office sign may be able to come down 120 days
Or less.
or less.
Yeah, well, that was actually 120 days to have a lease sign, not to open the post office. That was sort of misreported.
Oh, dear Lord.
Well, I saw Kent yesterday and he wanted me to pass that on at the meeting, but what he was really saying was that within 120 days, a lease should be signed. So
Okay.
it was reported as the post office would be open. But I agree, it may be time to change that Wilderness Post Office sign.
I think, you know-
How many, it's a countdown, number of days until the post office. will be open.
120.
Right.
What, the only thing I'd recommend in light of that, because obviously people care about that
Sure.
issue, is to agendize it properly for next
Sure.
meeting, so that people that feel strongly about wanting that sign there can come and voice their opinion.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's go back to the issue which is on our agenda and sounding out. So what's your thinking?
Yeah. I also don't like a lot of signs, but I think, you know, I'm in favor of this project and I'm a supporter of this project and I'm, you know, grateful to all the work you guys have done so far. So I think it's an appropriate place for a sign like this, you know, literally the critical safety project site is right there. So I'm okay with the sign. I'd like to maybe talk about moving the post office sign elsewhere and replacing it with that sign. I think that's a more appropriate use of BCPUD posts.
Yeah,
Rather than having 2 signs side by side. You know, the post office, we agreed to put it up because it was a townwide issue and we all cared about it. I think at the time we didn't know it would drag on for so long, so, yeah, maybe to be discussed next month. So,
Also, I'm understanding you're proposing 3 signs, not 1, is that right?
we are.
well, only 1 on BCPUD land, right? You're saying the others would be.
The other one would be right out here at the top of the job And the other one would be, it could be on the right as you're heading out of town. At or around resource recovery, we could talk to the fuels. They'd really put it there, or
Okay.
county easement there. Actually, there's not much county easement on that side of the road. At that point, but anyway, yeah, definitely. One at the bottom of Mesa is on BCPUD land, and this one could be county easement, I'm not sure.
Yeah. Grace, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
You have any thoughts on this?
I guess I'm not super in favor of lots of signs. I think the post office sign is important. But I think that the safety issue of this trumps my feelings about signs, so I would be in favor of this.
And how about this, how does the staff feel? Want any,
I don't think we have an opinion on this. I mean, to me, it's more of a governance issue. I mean, in as much as we have an opinion, I don't think it's super relevant. I think it's your decision. The only point I would like to make is that the path closed in January 2023. It has not been reopened. It's still closed. We're planning to put more obvious and kind of re-up the signage around that. And that's not to say that it's kind of to sort of instill what happens on the 4th of July, which is to basically draw people around the Grove, and that's we're planning to do some signage in the near term here. That potentially is temporary, in that when it comes before you guys in a more formal manner of, hey, are you ready to open the path back up, or no, where it still poses a danger and we'd still like to reroute people around. But I just think it's hard, because we also recognize it's not a fenced area. People do whatever they want to do, but it's our responsibility to make that signage clear. And it's difficult because people effectively just remove the barriers and signs, but we are gonna make an effort to make that signage clearer. So just kind of using this as an opportunity to let people know that the path is still closed.
anybody in the audience who's listening to this have a thought on this? Doesn't sound like.
I'm gonna say a few things.
Sure.
I support the sign, especially at the intersection. I think if we do 2 other signs, maybe they should be like half size. I feel like 3 6x4 signs might be a little excessive.
That's right.
I know that's a subjective opinion, but I think that the Salinas post office sign, this is my opinion, I'm not sure what that's really doing, but I think we have told people that they could put it there, and so we should probably keep it there. And then I think we should just put like posts and a fixed thing across the path, and it should say path closed, and we can always remove the piece that blocks the path, but I think something more permanent might be the stronger message, or like the clear legal message. But yeah, I definitely support the sign, and I think having the website is really important, because people do ask like what's going on with that, and it'd be great to just direct them to the site more easily.
And I mean, not to step on your guys' toes, but I do think that it's important to, you guys have expressed this at earlier points, but to understand that the support of this sign is really because it relates directly to district property.
Yeah.
And that this is not just like, oh yeah, we support any sign in that spot. Just to really contextualize your support of it, I think is important.
Yeah, I mean, it's our land. This is a project to, clean up and improve our land, so I think it's a good use of a sign.
All right, well, it sounds like we are supportive of the signs. I would think I would agree with you that the other 2 signs should be smaller than this one, right? And I also think we should agendize for the next meeting the post office sign, because I do think personally that it's probably time to come down. I think Sounds like the battle is almost won, but close enough so that. And also the idea of the two signs side by side become almost too much, so.
Maybe the post office sign could move down by the hardware store.
Yeah, if they want to still have it there, but it's sitting on our land and it's next to this one, I think
I
one
agree.
sign on our property is probably all that should be there, that's my personal view on that, so.
Yeah, we don't want everyone to think that the Belenes Eucalyptus project remove the sign. So,
Yeah, well, we agendize it, we'll let the
yeah, we'll have
community
a
know.
conversation about it.
Yeah, good.
Kevin, are you cool with 3 signs, or what do you think about that?
Maybe we could do a trial for 6 months, like, rather than having it. I don't know how long this eucalyptus project will go on, but maybe we could reassess it after 6 months and see if we're still. If it's effective, if you're getting donations, if you're getting hits on your website, great, let's keep them up for another 6 months, but. Yeah, I'd try 3 signs, but maybe we could do it for 6 months.
That's fair.
What do you think about that?
Okay,
So we'll revisit in February.
I would just request, like, the post office sign isn't quite sized to fill up that whole frame, which kind of bothers me. I would say whatever frame you put down, it should, you know, like, there's these gaps over here on the side. Which aren't.
Oh, it won't be much tighter.
So yeah, just try to make it tight and, make it look good.
Yeah,
Can I make a comment?
sure.
Just to also that if we have a drought and we have to put our sign back up, it trumps any, I don't like that word Trump, but it trumps any sign that's gonna be there. So if we have to put our daily water sign up, I think that would remove any signs that are there.
Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah, good point.
Yes.
Right. Okay, all right, so Grace, any final thoughts?
No, I think that we've come to a good resolution. I like the idea of the other signs being a bit smaller. I like the idea of doing the trial. I think it's important to have the sign up. And I would support moving the post office sign. I feel that until the post office comes back, it's really good for public awareness, for people to know that it's still being worked on and that we haven't given up. And, you know, I just want that message to go out. So I like the idea that we're agendizing it, and maybe it can find a different home.
Okay,
Yeah, to be clear, I like the post office sign as well, and I think it should stay, maybe just not in this location, so
Yeah.
maybe you can find it here. But I'd
Exactly.
still like to see the sign until the post office is restored. I'd like to see the counter. I have a quick question about what your target audience is. Is it tourists, locals, all the above? Critical safety project site is a little bit generic to me, and maybe you want it to be that way, but, I don't know, it's a little.
Our target
Is that the
audience
intention?
are citizens of Belenes, residents of Belenes, the people that are gonna be affected by it. And I'm just blown away daily at people that don't know about it. So it's kind of a last resort and trying to get. You know, it would be good if 90% of the people that lived here knew what the Belenes Eucalyptus project was, and like I said, all our other efforts hit, 300 people maybe pay attention to the hearsay, and another couple hundred to Bo Civic. And we've had informational storyboards down in town on the bulletin boards periodically, and some people have commented to me on those, but we just need more exposure.
I don't think it's a last resort for us in the slightest. What it is people attention spans have grown so truncated in this day and age that chiefly what this is a reminder, and particularly now as things start up and the ball rolls now. So that's the way I look at it.
okay. Well, it sounds like the board is in favor. Do we need a formal vote
Yeah, if
on
we
this?
would just have a formal vote, I think that would be helpful. 'Cause
Right,
it's basically-
so I'm gonna formulate a motion.
Yeah, I would move to approve 3 signs on BPUD property. One large sign at the intersection of Mesa and Belenes Road, and then 2 smaller ones at the corners of the property. And potential discussion for relocating the post office sign. in September.
All right,
Could we add a 6 month?
Yes, with a
Basis.
6 month trial period, thank you.
Might be too much to ask you to separate those two.
yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe.
Why don't you drop the post office part? And because it's an agenda.
Yeah, okay, motion to approve 3 signs, 1 being 6x4 approximately, 2 being smaller scale at the corners of the property, Mesa Road and Molinas. 6 months trial period, kind of advertising for the Venus Eucalyptus project. Information from donors.
Okay. There's a second,
Second.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 3-0. Okay, and then, as an aside, Georgia, we're gonna agendize the removal of the post office sign on our next meeting agenda. All right. That takes us to item 18. Back to the BEP request to be a co-applicant on coastal development permit application. You gonna address that?
Yes,
All right,
so as you all know, we have requested that you be co-applicants with us at the county planner for permitting. It seems like a slam dunk win-win. It gives us as a citizens group a lot more heft if we have an esteemed utility district on our application with us. And it gives you a display of being proactive and addressing the hazards that exist. And let's face it, there's pretty high likelihood that more trees will blow down and God forbid if there's any more tragedies and injuries, at least people would be doing everything it can to be behind this remedy. So other than that, we appreciate you considering this and look forward to the vote.
all right. So as I recall, we've already discussed this preliminarily, and I think one concern was that if we are the co-applicant for this permit application, who does the paperwork and the grunt work of the application? Is that your group?
I would like to direct that question to Jonna Alexander Green, if you could unmute her from Zoom. I think she has a better handle on the logistics of how things.
Hi,
Okay.
can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay, well, the grunt work has been done, and then the application form I will be filling in.
Okay, so it's not a request for the staff to do that kind of work, right? It's we would be the co-applicant, but your group would be carrying the do the laboring or, as they say.
That's right, my name will be on the permit, so they contact me with questions or requests for more information.
Okay. And again, let me turn to the staff. What do you think as a general manager about?
Supportive, appreciative of all of your work, yeah. And to be clear, the printouts at the back there, those are for the actual application. And John dropped them off earlier this week or last week. So that's, yeah.
Okay.
Like it's all moving forward.
Any other questions or discussion from members of the audience? All right, can I get a motion then to?
Just to say that we agreed to this a year ago, and your requirement was that we produce all these reports, which we have now done at our expense. And they're all in the application, the arborist reports, the biologist reports, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So we.
Was that our requirement or the
No.
county's requirement?
Well,
Everybody.
yeah, but you said to us before you would agree to be the co-applicant, we had to produce all these.
That all the paperwork and the supporting documents had to be produced. And it's gonna be us.
We had done that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, no, we've been discussing this for a while, but that has to do with putting it on her table or not, so.
Yeah.
All right, so.
Can I say something?
Yeah,
This is BPUD's liability. So I think BPUD should be the applicant with BEP. mean, BPUD's online, when a tree falls over and kills somebody. So. And BPP is helping BPUD big time by. Jumping through the hoops and. Raising the funds. But I don't know how the county. How they work, but. I would think an application from BPUD. Has more weight than some citizen. So it's a joint application, but really, BPUD is. Gonna be the one sued when somebody gets killed by a falling tree. Not BDP, so. I don't know, just in perspective that, yeah.
Can I just say that there's also trees on private property and on county property that could also wreak havoc, so.
Which are part of this application, right?
Yeah, the applications for the entire 11.9 acres, 7.6 of those are on BPUD. 1.4 is road surface and the remainder are on the 3 properties north of Mesa.
So maybe it's a question for Jonna. We are the co-applicants on this permit application. Does that mean we are equal applicants, or are you applying with us as a sort of subordinate co-applicant? What's your sense of that, Jonna?
I think we're applying as equals. I think from the beginning, we agreed that this wouldn't put extra work on BPUD staff. So we want to keep that promise and keep this moving forward. And I think having me as the project contact will help keep our ideals in place with whatever pushback we get. So I'm happy to just have this status of co-applicant and consider us equals. And I think we'll just get the best out of the county, just having your name on the document.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other discussion?
I do have one more point.
All right.
It's slightly past this, but something that might be useful. When we do get this packet to the county planner, that Kevin asked me week before last in the store. Do we have a letter of support from the Marin County Fire Chief, Mark Weber, I believe? And I said, we do not. And the reason for that is I thought after we were parted ways that day, we got off to kind of a rocky start with the fire departments early on with our poor choice of our original name was Wildfire Safe Bolinas, and it was a big mistake, and it really got our relationship with the fire people off to a bad start. And I'm not sure that relationship's ever been fully repaired. So the thinking is, and this is asking someone on the board to take an action and do some work. If perhaps you, a board member, would make that request of Chief Weber, because that would be a great letter to have before this packet does go to the county. So I just wanted to make that request.
Like as a supporting document to the permit application?
Yeah, we would just add it to everything else that's in that packet, just one more nugget.
We thought we really welcomed us making an effort to join in the existing wildfire safety marine
It was a mistake.
processes, and instead of that, they saw us as poaching or encroaching on their territory and trying to steal their thunder or something we don't really.
You know, a lot of water has passed under the bridge. Since we first started, how many years ago, John? 4 years?
4 years.
4 years ago. We started out with the fire department with a bit rockily. But that healed itself. But the main point is that there's eucalyptus removal all up and down the state, the coastal part of the state. There's large eucalyptus removal proposed over the hill and back of Red Hill Shopping Center, et cetera. So I think things have loosened up, and I don't think it's unreasonable for BPUD to politely ask Weber. Is he a Marin County Fire Department, or is he what?
He's fire chief, I believe. I could have the name wrong. I hope I don't,
All right, well,
but there is a fire chief.
we'll get that square if you decide to do it. I think it would be useful to do so. That's my thought.
Right. Well, let's just suggest this, the agenda item itself, so that it's a request that the BPUD be the co-applicant on this coastal development permit application. So if there's no further discussion, but is there a motion then that we, take that step and become the co-applicant?
I so moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 3-0. All right,
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
it's great material and we appreciate you doing all the work.
a lot of work.
And we appreciate you guys for working with us through this.
That Harvey packet is, I really felt like the project came alive, looking through the, I guess you call it the Zone 5 coastal permit drawings set. Yeah, the project came alive for me in ways that it hadn't yet, just kind of visualizing what it could be was,
Yeah, HT Harvey's been a really good choice, and we can thank David Ainley for that connection.
Yeah.
They've been so amazing to work with and helpful and easy. It's wonderful.
All right,
It's
well,
interesting to see over 40 trees in the county right of way.
hmm,
It's interesting to see over 40 trees in the county right of way,
Yeah,
part of the danger, really.
yeah, they have a role to play, though,
Yeah.
for sure. All right, I'm gonna move on to the next item.
thank you very much.
19.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
what do you guys think about the request?
I want to,
Oh.
I want to say thank you to Eucalyptus Committee too, sorry,
Yeah.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you, Al.
thanks,
That was great.
You have one more thing?
No, thank you,
it
Grace.
was great.
You could write a letter to the Marin County Fire Chief or the Marin County Fire Department asking for a letter to support the project. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I think it's worth the effort.
I totally support it.
Yeah, what do you think, George, if you want to write that letter?
Sure, just make sure I'm writing it to the right person, so you guys can get.
I'll get you that information.
Okay, yeah.
And then John, just a logistic point, what would you like done with all of these materials? Do you want me to bring them back to the office?
You can give them to Andrew.
Okay.
All right,
Thank you.
on the item 19, this is a request from Your Beach Land LAN. It showed as MBL to install an internet repeater above the water tanks on district property so they can continue to provide reliable internet to BPUD and surrounding customers. Is there anyone here to speak to this?
No, I conversed with Matt Porter, I think it's really straightforward, I just wanted to be very formal about this request.
Okay,
But I think it's essential for our operations, but just because it's serving more than just us, that's kind of why I wanted to bring it forward. As a formal request, but this is basically, emails and correspondence that I had with Matt, and drawings or photos that he prepared. You can see that it's essentially just like above the, well, kind of not really above the water tower, but it's like above in between the plant and the water towers. And it's pretty small, you can see there that picture above what it's gonna look like. And essentially, this is all because the way that we had been getting internet to the plant, there's trees growing up on park property that, the park has said they're not allowed to trim or cut or whatever. And so this will be kind of the circumventing that issue. And then again, it will serve both the plant, but also other properties that then relay off, including Commonwealth.
yeah. Yeah, because I think this is a good service to the community in general. Can I get a motion to approve the request to install that repeater?
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second, and I have a quick question for George about it.
Yeah.
Are we happy with Your Beach Land? The service and the internet service is reliable, and I suppose this will help improve it, but
We have,
in general,
um,
like Horizon doesn't go out that far.
Horizon doesn't go out that far, so I mean, and I think that's also important to just, when you're effectively supporting a private company, there's no other options really out there besides, Musk's Starlink, which is way more expensive, and not community minded, and I think there's strong reasons that we wouldn't want to do that, so anyway, that's, I'm I think it's, yeah, like I said, essential to our operations. We don't have any other means to have internet out there. We definitely need it, so.
Okay. Yeah. I'm in favor.
All right, did we already do a motion in a second?
Yeah, we did.
Okay, I'll.
Sorry,
second.
who brought them? Okay.
Kevin second,
I did.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 3-0. Okay, item 20 on the agenda. It's a request by BCPUD Director Kevin McElroy to analyze customer water usage data for the purpose of enforcing and creating water policy for the district. Do you want to speak to this, Kevin?
Sure. So with my time on the board, a couple of years now, there have been a couple of instances where I would have really liked to dig into the customer water usage data on a very granular level and sort of play around with the spreadsheet. And I'll give you a couple examples. Well, one was before my time during the drought, and I would tune into BCPUD meetings. This is before I was a director, but I would tune in, and there were a lot of discussions about, well, which property has so many people, and you were sort of looking at having to restrict people's water usage, to get it down really low so we could provide water to everybody. So I feel like that's an instance where the board would have to look at customer water usage data. Another one came up when the short-term resolution was going through the county, and there was a lot of discussion about that, and
Oh, they're short-term rentals.
short-term, yeah, sorry, did I say short-term rentals? And we as a board talked about possibly implementing an LWUP, or asking a short-term rental license applicant to the county to then apply to us for an LWUP, because the reasoning being, well, if you're now operating a short-term rental, maybe your water usage goes up. But without seeing that sort of customer data, I don't think we can say one way or another if that's the case. And then one more instance where I would like to sort of sift through this data is looking at our annual budget. And last meeting, I sort of looked at the tiered meter readings and how we haven't raised those rates in, I think, 15 years. So being able to see, how many customers we have paying at a certain tier, and what that would mean if we were to raise those rates, how much money that would bring in, the sort of cost benefits of that would be really useful. So that's my request. I asked Georgia if it would be possible to sort of get the spreadsheet of this sort of data, and she said, well, let's bring it before the board for a discussion. So
Okay,
that's.
And just to contextualize some of my thinking there, I mean, first of all, I wanted to make sure what Kevin was requesting was legal, and I basically brought it to a council, and they said, yeah, that's fine, as long as, he's approaching it from a governance point of view, which I think he's laid out why he thinks it's pertinent to governance. And then the other thing is that I just, I want to be careful around things, not to pick on Kevin in any way, but I think especially as I start out here, I think it's really important for you guys to understand your role as the governing body, and for us staff to be really squarely around the operations. And this request is obviously veering into kind of more a detailed look at effectively what are, for operating procedures. And so I just want to be, I want us to be diligent and formal when a director is asking to be involved. And I think it's important for you as a board to decide where that kind of line lies. And so to give you guys a formal opportunity to weigh in on this. I also want to say that I really appreciate Kevin's involvement here, because it could be something where essentially he just directs us. That's the other option, right? To just direct us to do all of that data crunching. To be totally honest, like, we don't have the bandwidth to do that. So it also comes down to us being like small and, recognizing that even if this is a governance decision, it might be more appropriate for us to go and do all of that data crunching and come back to you. But we don't really have the ability to do that. So I appreciate Kevin taking on this role and doing, like that heavy lifting, but that's the context in which it's like, I was saying, okay, I'm supportive, it's legal, but let's bring it before the board.
all right, but I have Grace, you have any thoughts on this?
hold on. Yeah, it makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable, honestly, and again, no disrespect to Kevin whatsoever. It does seem more like a staff uh, task, and I think that we have to be careful to walk a fine line between, what is sort of relatively confidential. People's water use is public in some ways, but the various reasons why people use water and what they do with it after it gets through our water meter is their business. And I think it's tricky when if an individual was coming being discussed, I think we have to be very, very careful about how we do that. And I'm not saying Kevin wouldn't be, but I have a few reservations about it, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, one reservation, of course, would be the confidentiality aspect, but I suppose that a board member or a committee like the operations committee could be crunching these numbers and talking about the results and the data without necessarily disclosing the individuals. And that would take care of the confidentiality part of it, from my perspective.
Yeah, and sorry, just to be clear, when I sought legal counsel, it's very clear that this is for Kevin to see as a kind of privileged board member.
Yes,
The idea is not that then he would be able to go disseminate this data, non-redacted or whatever, right?
Yeah.
It's like and I asked him, we went through a series of emails, Kevin and I, and basically I said, is it possible to provide redacted data? He explained that he really wanted non-redacted data, and that's where, and I understand your level of discomfort, Grace, but just to let you know, the council said that's allowable. So it's, again, obviously you would, that assumes that Kevin's being very careful with the data that is being shared with him. If maybe it's a situation where he's only looking at that data in, at the office, like, I don't know exactly, but I haven't gotten to the stage of like, okay, well, what exactly is the data that we're actually sharing with you? How do we wanna kind of put the guardrails in place to make sure that nobody's personal data is, shared broadly or anything, but.
Yeah, and I just want to reiterate that I'm interested in the water usage data. I'm not interested in, social security numbers and credit card numbers and like, we're a water district. And without this data, I can see how much water we produce in a day, 90,000 gallons a day, 115,000 gallons a day. But without seeing where that water is going, then it's really hard for me to think about, well, what's the future of BPUD? What sort of resolutions do we want to come up with? How do we manage our water supply in drought years, especially? So without having this really granular data, I think it's hard to do our job.
yeah, Jamie.
Yeah, I guess I'm not clear, maybe I wasn't listening adequately, but I'm not clear what kind of data you're going for. besides just
it's the meter readings.
That's it.
Yeah.
So you're not breaking it down to how much of it's going for water in your plant?
No. We don't collect that data. As far as I know, BPUD doesn't.
We don't have that.
Once it gets to your meter, then we just take the meter readings.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking at amounts of water per meter.
Per meter.
That's what I'm looking for.
I was wondering if you had a survey in mind where you were going to be asking people where their water was going.
No.
Would be kind of creepy.
I don't have that intention.
Do you want to know like addresses and names, or could that stuff be redacted and you could just be given an account number?
Well, it's certainly helpful to know, like, if it's a laundromat versus a business versus a residence, like, at the very least, I think that's important to know. I could sort of imagine, grouping things by neighborhood or, Mesa versus Little Mesa. So I'm not sure. I mean, in general, with the data, the more you have, the better. So I would prefer to have more than less. So
I guess I have two questions. What will be shared, like, in terms of covering our steps? Like, are you sharing specific data with just the staff or with the public at meetings? Can other, like, look, I'm kind of interested, could I join, or is that a separate board request?
Well, this would apply to board members.
Yeah, so I
Not
think
to Kevin personally.
I worded this so that the board would have access to the data, not just myself, because.
Yeah.
I feel like, again, like in a time of drought, I feel like all the board members, it would be helpful if we could all look at this sort of data. So that's how I worded it.
Didn't see anything about it.
Oh, well, I just copied and pasted what you put, but I don't know if it's clear.
Yeah, it says
Okay.
BCPUD Director Kevin Mount.
Okay, I'm sorry, yeah, I must not have done that as well as I intended to. I wanted to be for the board to have.
As one board member, I would say that I read this agenda item as applying to all of the board members. Your name happened to be on it.
That was my intention, but I don't think I worded it. quite-
Yeah, I mean, if
quite
you guys bring this to a motion, you can basically clarify that. I would suggest
Yeah.
doing that.
Yeah.
As far as your first question, Andrew, what will I be sharing and how, or who I'd be sharing with? Yeah, again, I think this is confidential information I wouldn't make it public. I wouldn't, in my analysis, I wouldn't include any addresses or names, that's not my intention. It's more of a sort of looking at it granularly, but looking at sort of patterns and, I don't know, opportunities to
Yeah.
conserve water. So it's not so much about what one meter does, but just sort of looking at the overall town's
Yeah.
usage. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, it totally makes sense. I'm kind of starting to go through the gears for Grace's concern of like. Let's say that we're looking at this data really closely and for some reason, we were like, okay, these are the like top 25. Bad users or something,
Oh, shaming,
and then,
we do shaming here?
no shaming,
Okay.
but let's say then someone from that list. Comes up on the agenda for something and I accidentally say something because of that data, does that then put us in this like? Difficult position legally,
I think that, I don't know if it puts you in a difficult position legally. It doesn't make you look very good.
well, yeah,
Well, because you guys have LWAPs and you bring
That's the
people
thing.
forward, right?
But-
So
yeah.
there's clearly water usage is not protected like social security numbers, et cetera.
yeah,
So, but it's not good practice and it could, lead to those kinds of incidents.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, when a property comes up for an LWAP, we see the type of data that I'm asking for, historical water
Yes.
usage over the last 12 quarters or 16 quarters, so
mhm,
that's basically what I'm asking for each of our meters.
Yeah,
To be able to kind of do this, and like, to dig into the STR thing a little bit, the short-term rental, the county makes it a public document, you can look up all the addresses in Bolinas and find out which properties have an STR license. So that's public information.
mhm,
I could, if I had customer water usage data, I could cross-reference those properties with our, customer usage and see how much water those properties are using, and is that more than, the average property, or, I don't know, something like that, so
that's a point well taken.
Yeah, I'm just, because I feel like I want to channel Jennifer here, I know that is an issue that they have looked into already. That their, at least preliminary analysis didn't reveal that short-term rentals were particular like water hogs.
So you mean BCPUD looked into it, or?
Yes,
county?
that,
Okay.
the
Yeah, yeah.
staff looked into it. I also want to point out that basically, I think that they, consulted with council and they were really, alerted that getting into sort of water use past the meter is problematic. I do want to contextualize that with, I think I told you, Kevin, that the county, in terms of their short-term rental, are already going to look at water use. And told us that we'll likely have to be providing that data. So I think that, it's obviously different if, a higher up is telling you, you need to do this versus us going and, seeking that data ourselves. So it might be that, the county essentially directs us to do exactly what the kind of data crunching that you're talking about, or at least sharing that data with the county ultimately, so they can be doing their own analysis and maybe even applying their own like, I don't know exactly what that will look like, but it does seem like it's, even though we have received you know, legal counsel that essentially this is not a really safe territory to get into. It might be something that is ultimately at our doorstep because of the county's regulation of the short-term rentals.
I mean, we already sort of do that with ADUs, right? If somebody wants to build an ADU, they come to us for an LWUP and we apply that
Yes.
usually. You know, sort of at our discretion. So, you know, we do look over the fence a little bit in certain circumstances, so.
And I totally agree. I mean, coming from a very, I would consider an objective standpoint where I didn't really know about LWAPs and stuff, but in discussions with, you know, Jennifer and Belle, just in the office, just cursorily, I was like, a lot of inconsistencies in how my view is in how we apply LWAPs, when we're gonna use them, when we're not, and it's come up a couple of times of like, well, why are we not doing it in this case around, remember the ADU at the church property?
Yeah.
So anyways, I agree that I would urge you guys to think more broadly about your policies around LLUPs and where you use, you know, what the rationale is around when you require them. Because I feel like this whole kind of idea of, oh, well, we do it when there's a potential for modification of water use is not the case when you actually look at how you use it and when you don't apply it and when you do. Because I can think of instances where I'm like, well, that could be a potential, exactly like your short-term rental, right? Like, why do we guess that a short-term rental isn't gonna have any impact, but then we guess that if you put it in a bedroom, that will? That's, you know,
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of kind of arbitrariness to the policy around LWAs.
Well, I have two thoughts. One of them is that there's another instance too, when that kind of water usage becomes public, and that's when someone does have a limitation on their water and they get a letter from us that says that you're over your limit, you gotta cut back. And then they don't, and they get the second letter. And the second letter says, now you're in trouble, and we put it on our agenda, you're gonna have to come basically and show cause why we shouldn't punish you or something. And then at that point, their water usage actually becomes a matter of public record. So there are instances other than just LWAPs in which we will take a look at, you know, what somebody's water usage is, and it becomes public at that point. And my other thought is that if the unredacted data, which I think should be available, allows you to look at the various usage from the water meters in addition to doing a general analysis when our drought situation was particularly bad. And we knew that we have some users in this town that are just using too much water. I mean, they just, because they didn't have any limitations on, you know, and didn't become subject to our limits. We nevertheless wanted to find out, well, who are these people, and send the staff basically to them and say, look, you know, here's the average usage in this town, and this is what you're using. And we're in a drought situation, and you really need to cut it back. And the only way you can do that is by analyzing all the data from the various meters to find out who the heavy users are, which I believe is a legitimate function for the board. And especially if you put it under the auspices, let's say, of the operations committee or something, then that's a legitimate question, especially when you're trying to control excessive usage during a drought. So I do think that there's various justifications for the kind of data analysis that you want to do. And it doesn't have anything to do with invasion of privacy. It has to do with us monitoring the usage of water and trying to keep it under control and like that. So I would be supportive of what you're asking. Anyhow, that's my 2 cents on the subject. So let's see, Grace, do you have any final thoughts on this?
Yeah, my memory from the drought years was that information was brought to us confidentially by staff, and then staff, you know, we directed staff, we agreed that staff would individually contact those high users. That was, you know, it was kept pretty much in the back room, as it were. It wasn't water use does become public knowledge in certain circumstances, but I think in general, our customers, there is an agreement, an unspoken agreement with the customers that unless there is egregious usage that violates some of our our rules and regulations, that their usage will be relatively private. So I'm okay with this, but I would want to make sure that there's guardrails up to keep it within like a committee structure or something like that. I think that that's important, that it stays in the background, and then what comes into the public forum, maybe in the form of recommendations that will make us more efficient, in the form of recommendations that will tighten up our policies so that they're more consistent, that type of thing. I'm okay with that. But I don't know, this feels like a little bit of a slippery slope, so I just want to make sure that we're rigorous in our efforts to preserve confidentiality as much as possible, in keeping with our previous practice.
Sure. All right, any other discussion on this? What do we need to do? Is this something that you'd like a motion on?
Yep. And then I would recommend that you guys modify it if you want it to be, as Grace said, like in the form of a committee, or if you want it to be any board, whatever. I want to be able to understand what you guys are approving at the end of this, in terms of if somebody comes to me and says, hey, can I have, non-redacted, somebody, I mean, a director comes to me and says, can I have non-redacted data to do X? I'm understanding, oh, yes, let me look at this, what was voted on at this meeting, or say, no, you're not on the operations committee, or whatever
Right.
that looks like.
That's what I was thinking of, changing the language. Why don't we say request by BCPUD director for members of the operations committee
Is it,
to handle?
sorry, Jack, is it about? It's not about us seeing it, it's about how it's shared. So is the operations committee or staff the vehicle to which we share? Because it's not like I wouldn't look at the data and just like post something on Nextdoor about it. But do you have to, like, it could just be that a director can see it because they're a director.
Yeah.
But then it's assumed that because they're a director, they're keeping it confidential. And the vehicle for expressing it is through an operations committee report or a staff.
I agree, that's
You know what I mean?
cleaner to me, is that basically you guys have, what I recommend you guys do here, just in terms of me being able to implement this, if people requested of me, is that any board member effectively could come to me and say, hey, I want to look at non-redacted data. And maybe what I'm doing is making sure that, okay, you can see this data, but it has to be on the premises or whatever.
Okay.
But then when you say report out, oh, I did all of this data crunching, I'd like to report this out at our board meeting. Well, then, that's almost like to me, a separate item of what does that policy look like? In terms of, maintaining guardrails that say, okay, at the point that you're disseminating this message, that's where, Grace's concerns come into play.
Totally.
Yeah. Well, how would you word that, the motion?
I would say that what I would say for right now is that you guys don't give the ability to disseminate that.
No.
That's what I'd say, and then we can, if Kevin, it's almost like, it's kind of almost best dealt with within a case and, in study, where essentially Kevin can do this data and he can be like, oh, you know what, I want to present this. And essentially you could, first bring that to staff, and we could consider, okay, what are the issues that have been raised at this meeting in terms of disseminating the type of data that Kevin would like to disseminate, and then we can kind of say, okay, well, let's bring this to a board meeting and let's have it, hopefully that is general enough that it serves our purposes, down the road.
Well, that feels a little clunky. So you're saying that if I want to see the data for a specific analysis, for example, when the budget comes up again in the late winter, spring, to analyze, if we raise the rates, each tier, by 10%, what that would mean. So I would come to you and we'd put it on the agenda for me to get that data for this specific purpose.
No.
No.
What I'm recommending is what you guys approved is effectively, any one of you could come to me and say, hey, I want to do some data crunching. It's not really up to me to say, you can't look into that specific issue, right? It's not that. It's basically what this allows is a sharing of non-redacted data. 2 board members. Okay, so then I share that with you. And then the question is, you do whatever you, I mean, you don't even have to necessarily tell me, oh, I wanna do it for this purpose, I wanna do it for that purpose. You're doing whatever you wanna do, but at the point that you disseminate it. I looked at this data, I have this table here, I wanna bring it forth to a broader audience. You have discussion with me, and that thing comes before the board as, and hopefully as a case study of that is broader language around,
Yeah,
oh, when, you know, when a board member wants to present, you know, I'm guessing what it probably looks like is you cannot share any non-redacted, data that reveals the, you know, the, identity of, or could be, you know, detective work identity
Yeah.
would be revealed, like something like that, that essentially tells us, okay, now we have policy that allows me to share data. And now we have policy that tells you how you can then disseminate that
Right.
message.
All right, how about this?
Yeah.
Request by, well, I'll forget the request part, but it basically would be. For a board member to analyze customer water usage data for the purpose of analyzing and developing water policy for the district. What do you think about that?
I like that better than using enforcing,
Yeah,
because the policy could potentially be enforcing.
and also it's a governance basis,
Yeah,
and it has nothing to do with dissemination, which would be a separate issue, as you point out. But if we take out the enforcing and putting it in a broader, more analytical, which is really the purpose that you're trying to go for anyway.
I'm not looking to
It-
be a sheriff, water sheriff.
Exactly, yeah, so we take out the enforcement part and we just say for, and it'd be any board member, right? To analyze customer water usage data for the purpose of analyzing and developing water policy for the district.
Yeah, I like that.
Oh, shoot. It's maybe not plugged in.
Want to try the other one?
You're still on. Are you trying to?
Oh, it's fine. I mean, I don't think I need to share anything else, so I'm not sure why my computer's shutting down, but
Okay,
it's fine.
anyway, you accepted that amended language.
Yeah, sorry.
Does Georgia think that's comprehensive enough and?
I think so, but can you just tell me what the beginning was? I mean, I guess we can just,
Yeah.
we're
Well, this is-
recording it, so it's fine, but.
Okay. This is a request, so we're gonna call it a motion, I guess. For any board member to analyze customer water usage data for the purpose of analyzing and developing water policy for the district.
Okay,
Okay,
and do we, is there any like?
I guess the only thing I would say is maybe it might be a little bit clearer if you put it in the context of staff. So we say, allow staff to share with any board member, blah, blah, blah.
okay,
So
That
I see.
becomes more obvious what we're talking about.
okay,
We need an attorney to like. Put those guardrails on, kind of give everyone a crack
Sure, I
course.
mean, why don't we do that, which is basically you guys can craft it, I can bring it before. You know, just pass it by the same attorney that said this was allowable and then say, is it all right if it looks like this?
okay,
Sure.
So before we go on tonight, you mean sort of,
Yeah, so why don't, instead, I mean, this feels like a pretty big thing that you guys were doing. Maybe we should memorialize it in the form of a resolution that I could bring back in September.
yeah,
And just clarify the language so that this would essentially allow.
right, and in the meantime, you can take it to council to make sure it passes muster.
Yes,
Okay,
and what was the, yeah. Okay,
that sounds good.
all right, and then as a separate matter, maybe to be dealt with at the same time, is the issue of dissemination or use of the.
yeah, I mean, maybe what it would make sense is to have a resolution that deals with both of those matters.
Yeah,
Yeah,
all right, so we'll continue that item.
Wait, Grace is,
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Grace.
No, I was just, I'd like it to go by council. I mean, what if you've got somebody who gets on the board and then gets off? And then they've had access to all this information and then they are only sort of morally and ethically bound by confidentiality, but not legally, as far as I understand it, although maybe I'm wrong about that.
No.
I'd like to err on the side of caution. So, yeah, I'd like it to,
Employee who has access to that data, and they resign and they go somewhere else, I mean, they're all.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that we, just as an example, we run into, I think, much more sensitive stuff at the school. And, you know, there's always that where you're in closed session and people are sharing with you what is private. I'd say that even here, it's actually less private where you're talking about water usage, which I think is
that's
actually,
for sure.
anyway, so I think that what you're talking about, Grace, is a more general matter that is always, you know, there's always the potential that somebody doesn't, you know, act in an ethical manner in terms of the data they're sharing. I guess the particular concern there would be that, like you're saying, maybe it's like they don't actually, maybe the legal guardrails keep people more ethical. And so if, you know, they're allowed to share that legally, they actually are not as, you know, well behaved anyway.
Yeah, so I don't think anything
Yeah.
we're discussing infringes on the legal restrictions that we have about disclosing confidential information. We're talking about using that information among ourselves as board to analyze and develop water policy, but not to disclose it in violation of the law.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Okay,
I like having the staff woven in. Yeah, I'm not worried that anybody who gets on the board is going to be that unethical, honestly, but I'm just trying to
Yeah, you're being
think of
cautious.
all the different things that could happen. I'm trying to be cautious. That's exactly right.
all right, so we'll continue the item to the next agenda and we'll have you draft a resolution, run it by council. And whether it should be a single resolution or two of them, let's address the dissemination of the results of that analysis somewhere, since we're talking about it
It
already.
could be on one resolution.
Yeah, I mean, I would
I think
imagine
so.
this is, you know, yeah, directors' use and dissemination of water use.
Yeah.
Analysis and
Yeah.
dissemination of water use data.
Okay, all right,
Cool.
Then we'll look-
I just had a question before we leave this section on special reports and updates. That says, I'm trying to get used to the new format here, so I just have a question there. It says action requested. That action doesn't necessarily then, I can see you did a continue till next meeting, but did 19 have an action taken on it? Or was that?
Yes.
And they voted to.
It was a motion?
yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
all right,
Pardon.
that's okay. Okay, moving on, budgetary / financial resolutions and approvals, none.
Yeah, and just to be clear, just to Jenny's point, 20, we're not taking any action, we're effectively tabling it in the form of a resolution.
I get that, thank you,
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Okay, moving on, legislative and governance resolutions and approvals, item 22. Resolution number 730, honoring Jennifer Blackman and her 20 years of service to the district. And
So, I apologize, I think it's very, kind of fitting that Belle and I could not confer with Jennifer on this, so I think we kind of screwed it up. In that this isn't supposed to be a formal resolution with a number, I think is generally how people handle it. So I was saying this was kind of like our very meta, honoring of Jennifer in that we, essentially showed how essential she is to our, smooth operations. But, with that said, we do have a resolution to honor her and, I would like to read the resolution and, I'm sorry it didn't appear in your, materials because we basically wanted to, you know, I don't know, we were confused. Okay, so resolution in honor of Jennifer Blackman, memorializing the occasion of the retirement of Jennifer Blackman from the position of general manager of the Bolinas Community Public Utility District. And for those who are not aware, Jennifer's last regular date of employment is this Friday. And so that's why this resolution is coming before us now. So be it hereby declared by the Board of Directors of the Bolinas Community Public Utilities District as follows. Whereas Jennifer L. Blackman served the Bolinas Community Public Utility District for a really, really long time, like forever. Whereas when Jennifer L. Blackman began serving this district, the Bolinas community was up in arms about beachgoers overstaying their welcome, non-locals taking up all the town's parking, the implementation of the skate park, and the West Nile virus. Whereas during Jennifer L. Blackman's service to the district, the members of the board of directors saw many new faces over the years. Andrew Alexander Green, Vic Amoroso, Kimberly Bender, Lyndon Comstock, Grace Godino, Bobby Kimball, Jack McClellan, Kevin McElroy, Jack Seaman, Don Smith, Kirsten Walker, some of whom are present here today. Whereas while the needs of the district became increasingly more complicated and regulated and required more and more time to attend to, Jennifer L. Blackman handled her job as general manager with integrity, intellect, and toughness, and spent many, many hours, long hours and countless sleepless nights attending to her expanding list of duties. Be it therefore resolved by the Board of Directors of the Bolinas Community Public Utility District as follows. That August 23rd, 2024, a most auspicious day shall hereby officially commemorate the retirement of Jennifer L. Blackman as the general manager of the Bolinas Community Public Utility District, and return her back to a private citizen of Bolinas, whereby she is free to contact the BCPUD about puddles in the road, ask if she can buy an empty lot and park her RV on it, complain about her neighbor's tree, or just stop by the office to chat about the rights of way. Be it further resolved by the Board of Directors of the Bolinas Community Public Utility District that Jennifer L. Blackman is acknowledged and effusively thanked for her ceaseless dedication and countless hours of commitment and devotion to the district, and especially to the town of Bolinas. It is hereby certified that this resolution was duly introduced and adopted by the Board of Directors of the Bolinas Community Public Utility District with great appreciation and admiration this 21st day of August 2024 by the following vote. So.
Very good.
Very nice. Well written.
All right.
Can we read
And
it
thank
out?
you, Belle,
Sorry.
for that.
Yeah.
That was,
So,
Belle, I don't know if you want to add anything.
No. That was it. That was everything.
When Rudy left, he asked me, would I please say that he was totally in favor of this, and.
oh,
so
okay.
good.
Thank you. All right, so we need a motion then to pass resolution. It is resolution number 730.
No, it will just be resolution to honor,
Okay,
in honor of Jennifer L. Blackman.
okay. So can I get a motion to approve that resolution?
Yeah, I'm so moved.
All right,
I second.
all in favor? Aye. In great show of distance, in principle anyway, spirit.
Do we have like a hit?
Absolutely. It was wonderful. It was so funny too. I love the way it was written.
All right,
Yeah.
and then, yeah, and then there is a party on Saturday and I think we'll leave this to it, huh?
Yes.
Okay.
Is that a community party or just a?
No, it was
private.
That's all right, yeah. All right, number 23, resolution. So is this resolution now being renumbered to 730?
Yes, and I have dropped up, you know, for you to actually sign,
Sign.
they're the right numbers.
Okay, so renumbered resolution 730 would be to amend resolution 545 because it changes the meeting time and location of the BPUD's regular meetings. The first of which is being conducted right now, but we have to formally amend a resolution that previously set a different time and location.
Yes.
So can I get a motion to approve resolution 730?
I so moved.
Is there a second?
I will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay.
I guess we like the new time.
Yeah,
So far, so good.
yeah.
And- Yes, thank you to the firehouse for letting us be here. It's
Yes,
really,
yeah.
I think it serves our purposes a lot better personally, but.
All right, moving on to operational resolutions and approvals, contracted work related resolutions and approvals, item 24, none. District issued permit approvals, item 25. Limited water use permit application for the property 185 Iris in Bolinas, AP 191, 17217. Riley Van Eck and for Chris Ware. Is there somebody here to speak to this?
My name is Katrina Magana. I'm here on behalf of Chris Ware and Riley from Villa Homes.
Hi.
Okay,
Hello.
hi.
Hi, yes, the application is for a proposed 750 square foot ADU on the property located on Iris Road, for the homeowners Chris Ware. We are looking to connect to the existing water meter.
Okay. In our binders, we do have your application and a description of your project. So this is adding an additional 1-bedroom unit and would traditionally be subject to a limited water use permit. Does the rest of the
Yes.
board agree?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Any-
Sorry, you're here on behalf of the homeowner, is that right, Katrina?
Yeah, yes, I'm the agent well, we're a contractor, but I am the agent helping them with this, the project manager.
Okay. And they understand that a limited water use permit restricts the amount of water they can use?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Okay. All right, any other questions?
I just want to make sure this is a quick question for you. This is just one parcel, is that correct? Is that it sort of zigzags along?
Yeah.
It's an unusual shape, so I just want to make sure this is just considered one parcel in the county's eyes.
Yes, correct. It's one parcel. It is a very odd shape. It's like a Z shape, but yes, it is. We have a boundary survey completed. It is one parcel.
Okay,
Yeah, looks like it.
that's good, so we're not crossing any property lines.
No, but it just has that shape to it.
Yeah,
All right, can I get a, and then be subject, I assume, to our regular limitations on limited water use permit, right? Basically,
which would, I think, bring them up to 2,700 cubic feet per quarter,
I believe,
based on our
standard.
resolution.
Yeah. Appropriate.
So it looks like we looked at your water usage for the property and a few quarters, they've gone right up to where your limit would be. So yeah, I just want to make sure that, that they're aware of this, but you said they are, but even without the ADU, they're already kind of bumping up right against where their limit would be. So are they aware of that?
Well, no.
Yes, they are.
To the older data,
Um,
it's less.
That's true, but I mean, of the data that we're looking at, there's one here from 2 years ago that's right up there.
Okay,
So,
right.
yes, they are aware, and they are aware of the limit of water use. So they would definitely keep that in mind. There was a tenant living on site that is no longer living on site that probably had to do with the water use, but yes, they are fully aware.
All right, can I get a motion then to issue a limited water use permit for this property?
so moved. That would be 2,700 cubic feet per quarter.
Yes,
Yeah, I would second that.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 3-0. Okay, let them know that was granted.
Yeah,
Thank you.
nice site plan.
Yeah, good luck with your project.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
you're welcome. Okay, item, okay, this is employment and related approvals. Item 26 on the agenda. Proposal for district policy, which will delineate the composition of BPUD's interview committees for hiring across all existing positions in the district.
Yeah, and this is again, 26,
Yeah.
so if you go there, basically, I think I kind of already spelled this out earlier, but essentially, since I've come here or joined the district, we promoted Belle and into her position, her current position. And there was some confusion about what were those, what is the policy that allowed us to do that? And so this is kind of, obviously, I feel like this is very much a governance decision, so this is just effectively a proposal of what I would suggest we could do here. So if you turn to the table, it's kind of, you can see all of the positions that we currently have, and then sort of, what would it be a traditional open hiring and what the committee would look like versus an internal promotion procedure. I recommend that we keep in place an internal promoting procedure, where essentially it's always passed by the personnel committee. It's never like we're just like appointing people, but yeah, anyway. So that's.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good, that you took the time to think this out and divide it up the way you did. So,
Does it, when you wrote in the, for this right column, GM recommends to personnel committee, is that so that would be the policy, or is that just like a suggestion in this table?
Oh, this is, I mean, presumably if you guys approve this table, then it becomes effectively your policy.
Sorry, I was kind of-
So, the idea is that, no, that's literally how you would, so for instance, if you look at, say, the part-time administrative aide. And we did that through a, internal, it would be like GM recommends to the personnel committee. So I'd say, hey, we wanna, hire or promote somebody to this position. And then the personnel committee brings this recommendation forward to the full board. I mean, that's not something that I'd say necessarily comes up all that much, but you could imagine the full-time administrative aide is like a much more kind of obvious way. Imagine we have somebody who's on a part-time position and they're working out great, and we want to internally promote them. And essentially the kind of guardrails and your involvement would be, hey, I'm bringing this, convene a meeting with the personnel committee. Hey, personnel committee, I would like to recommend, they say yes, or they say, no, we want to go out for an open hire. So that's kind of, and then the other side is just like, who's actually on that if we have an open hire. So, so if we just, because I was obviously bringing this forth in the context of the two hires, so if you look for the, full-time shift operator, that's one of our positions, and the full-time administrative aide. So, what I'm recommending for the full-time shift operator would be the general manager, the chief operator, and one board member. And existing operator if invited by the GM and non-voting. So essentially, if you want more involvement there, we could have a committee of, effectively, 4 people if we decided, oh yeah, it's worthwhile to have another operator on there.
And the board member is part of the personnel committee.
No, not necessarily. I wasn't thinking of it that way. I think it would be generally say, where you guys, would bring somebody forward, or I can just ask. I don't know exactly what that, would look like because it's next week and I don't have it on here for this week.
Okay.
So it was like a little bit of an oversight, but yeah, it would just generally, volunteer for the committee.
I mean, I want to kind of defer to the personnel committee on this. My gut would say that board member, where those 2 board members are on the personnel committee. Generally, unless the personnel committee can't make it or has.
generally it has been, but
Conflict of interest or something,
Yeah,
Well, there's an alternate, I mean, every committee has an alternate member, so if one is absent or
Yeah,
has a conflict of interest, there's an alternate, so, yeah, it seemed to make more sense to me as well to make that, instead of writing 2 board members, to say GM plus personnel committee, but yeah, that was my question too, is there a good reason to kind of leave it loose like that?
what do you guys think?
well, Grace and I have been doing this together for quite a while, and we just function that way, so it makes sense to me, but I could see where you maybe want to use somebody on the operations committee rather than the personnel committee. But I don't know, I'm fine with the way we've been doing it now, which is the personnel committee participates in the hiring process, just because we've been doing it. So, what do you think, Grace?
Yeah, I think it's been working well. I don't see any reason to change it. And since we do have an alternate, which we've used in times past when we've needed to,
Yeah.
I don't see any reason not to keep doing it with the personnel committee. I mean, that's kind of what the personnel committee does.
Okay.
One of the main jobs of it in the past, but
Yeah, it is one of our.
and I'm sorry, but I have to go to work. So I'm going to say goodbye to all of you, and I'll see you in September, and I'll really see you in October. So
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right,
Bye.
Hi, Grace.
we changed that from 2 board members to 2 members of the personnel committee.
To personnel committee, okay? And then,
But maybe there could be a line, if a member of if the personnel committee isn't available, then any board members could,
Or an alternate.
or
Or
yeah.
whatever.
I don't know, or maybe we leave it like it is, I mean, maybe it's, maybe it's assumed that those two board members are on the personnel committee, but if there's a good reason for another board member to step up and join that, in that hiring process, then
Yeah,
we could allow for that.
maybe
I think
it's
it's
too
way-
limiting if we really specify who has to be making the decision.
All right, so leave it as 2 board members or 1 board member, depending which category we're looking at.
Yeah,
Okay,
Sorry,
I'm
make this
fine
case
with
up,
it
yes.
either way. And then, yeah, we'll just use it. Well, we have this coming up shortly, right?
yeah.
I don't, yeah, no, that's the thing is that basically, so for the full-time shift operator.
Yeah,
I mean, if you guys wanna default to personnel committee right now, then at least the policy will be clear. And I don't have to like, you know, cause I guess part of this is I'm, kind of modeling it after what we do at the school where we have much bigger committees. and-
Yeah.
But, I think it's still important and it did come up in the context of, you know, earlier where it was like, well, what is our policy and what is allowing us to just promote Bell to this position? I think this is consistent with what we did.
Yeah.
So, I think there's value in formalizing it. But I would say that, because, you know, if you guys did it, if you amended it so that it said personnel committee, that would be very obvious that I can just go to the committee and say, hey, you know, obviously Grace is not here, Jack, can you be on the hiring committee or can you attend these meetings?
Yeah.
And if he's not available, then I can go to the alternate.
yeah,
Whereas if you guys don't do that, then it makes it a little bit muddy because you guys I haven't brought forth like how does that look like?
Mhm.
In terms of who you hire or who you appoint to this specific, you know, hiring committee for next week.
okay, so we will identify then the board member as a member of the personnel committee.
Yeah, and if you want, I mean, basically I can just say, you know, put an asterisk, 2 board members, star, you know, this is the members of the personnel committee.
Yeah,
But if they're.
Or an alternate,
Or-
or there, you guys already have specified alternates.
yeah, we have specified alternates. I was trying to find-
Who
I
is
think,
that?
I think I might be the personnel committee alternate.
Okay,
Never got to exercise any of those muscles, so maybe I'll get the chance. You already have the committee list in there?
I was looking for it and I couldn't find it.
Yeah, maybe not.
Don't worry.
I'll look back at it.
Yeah, however, anyway, the only applicability it has right now is that we are about to interview for
Yes.
a full-time shift operator.
Yes, and the full-time administrative aide, that both of those will happen before our next meeting.
Well, the full-time administrative aide doesn't show a board member as being,
That's true.
yeah, so the only one that I would be interested in, because I'm on the personnel committee, would be the full-time shift operator. So I would be willing to be that board member, basically.
Yeah. And are you guys comfortable with not having a board member on the administrative aid hiring committee?
I'm
Yes.
okay with it,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think it's a great document. I looked through it and thought about it, and I think it's very well, everything is very well considered, and I
Yeah,
Mhm.
think it's a good.
Okay.
I agree.
yeah,
Okay, so just add an asterisk to this. And specify that where besides obviously the general manager, those other ones. Those will specify.
what,
Personnel.
Personnel
membership
committee
person.
or
Or-
alternate.
yeah,
Perfect.
If
okay,
possible, or, you know, if, I don't know, what if 2 of the 3 are out of town, or I don't know, I'm just sort of thinking of worst case. Like,
Well-
it should sort of be like, personnel committee should do it if they're in the country, if not, then any board member would suffice, that's sort of what I'm imagining.
well, we'd fill it in, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alright.
So do you need a motion for this?
I think so, yes, if you can just approve.
Approve the, okay, that's
With
table 1,
amendment.
basically, right?
Mhm.
Hiring procedures,
Where's table 2?
Let's just table one.
Okay.
okay. All right, and this is item 26 on our agenda.
So are we approving the policy or just the table? I think it's basically the table, that is the policy, right?
Mhm, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
And I don't know, I mean, this is kind of a little bit weird, but you guys tend to not have policy, like it's very weird. It seems like you guys really rely on resolutions
Yeah.
to memorialize your governing documents.
Yeah.
So I, like, normally, or not normally, but at the school, what we do, no, is basically, you know, there's a lot of internal policy. So
Yeah.
that's independent, and in fact, we use resolutions rarely, and they're more memorializing. Are kind of like legislative action, it's like they tend to hold less weight. It's like we often will, do a resolution to support zero waste marin or whatever, something that is just like a kind of show your sign of support. So if you would like, I can bring this back to, in the form of a resolution again, so that it's just more clearly policy. I don't know if that's, again, I'm just like thinking about where does this, if we just create hiring policy, does this document then just kind of,
Yeah, where does that live?
where does it live?
Where does it live with the school?
Good question.
Is there like a
Yeah,
bylaws? or-
there's like all of these, policies and.
What do you think? Have her bring it back to the resolution.
Well, like she said, that's kind of how we do things here, but I don't know the reason for that. I don't. It
I
just,
joined it.
we end up with a lot of resolutions, I mean,
We
we're
do.
at 730.
Yeah, we are. That's how this district runs.
I mean, it's kind of nice to have them all in one place. I
Yeah,
guess.
no, so I think that it doesn't really make sense to change now.
No.
I would say that if we want this thing to actually live somewhere where we would know where to go look it up, it
Yeah.
probably should be transformed into a
A
resolution.
resolution.
And I'll keep that in mind in the future, and just generally if I'm trying to
Yeah.
move something forward.
Okay, so continue this to the next agenda as a proposed resolution.
Yep,
All right, takes us to item 27.
But you have what you need for the next round of hiring that.
it's fine. I mean, I think that you guys have effectively directed me
Yeah.
toward how
Okay.
that happens, but it just doesn't have formal policy backing it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Item 27, so we're gonna renumber this as resolution 731. Appointing Jennifer Blackman as a limited duration employee and certifying the nature of the employment and that appointment is necessary to fill a critically needed position sooner than 180 days under government code sections 7522.56 and 21224. So basically what we're doing is Jennifer is retired, but now we're rehiring her as a employee of limited duration. Do we want to discuss this any further, or we have a proposed agreement, which I assume is what we're voting on, is that right? The
Mhm.
employment contract,
Yes,
okay,
the, the resolution and the appended agreement is
Yeah.
what you guys are voting on.
It's 731, correct?
if we
Yes, this
remember,
is 731,
yeah,
and just, I'm just gonna pass these on to you now, Jack, these are the two resolutions that
Okay.
came before you. That are not full punched and out of the right numbers.
okay, so can we have then a motion to approve resolution 731?
I still move.
Yeah, I will second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. All right, coming down the home stretch, approval of minutes, item 28, June 19th, regular board meeting,
Not done.
Not done yet.
not done.
Sorry, guys. I hopefully to get both of them done for the next meeting, I promise.
And that is also true for the July 17th regular board meeting,
Yeah, I just haven't had time.
okay? Takes us then to approval of warrants, which we do have started in this factor.
Yes.
Okay, does anybody have a chance to review the
I
warrants?
think I actually saw the ones, so I missed them.
Take a look.
Can I review them real quick?
You bet. Here, I'll stand. I think that. Take a look.
This is SUSP.
Yeah.
Mike Lane,
Water
Yeah.
consultant, Okay, I thought he was off the payroll, was, or,
Yeah, it's-
since his, June.
that's.
That was the last one.
Thank you, Jack.
I think these are from, this says July on the top, I don't, is this the right set? It said July 10th, 2024 on the top. Do we, because I never got these posted to the
Well-
drive, I feel like these might be old, no?
No, well, they're all checks that go through the 9th. So it,
Oh, you
July
know what?
10th represents it.
Yeah, these are the ones that we had
Current.
last month.
Okay.
This is
are
what we
they-
looked at last month.
Yeah, I don't think we got updated.
Yeah, you know, the minutes, I mean.
Oh, I,
July 13th through August 16th, but actually these are
I think these are all.
prior to that.
Yeah, that's why that.
I think they're on they should be on the drive, but
Sorry.
they maybe got there late.
My computer's.
Well, have we ever already voted then to approve the warrants that we're looking at?
Yeah,
That are from the 1st through the 9th of July? You know,
Can you see all
You're
the
comparing them,
board drive?
no, but this is what I had last month
Okay,
in my, on the board.
but on the board drive itself, I mean, well,
I haven't had access to it right now. I'm sorry.
okay. Anyway,
Yeah, sorry, I did put them on, but it was a little bit later today.
okay.
so I think we'll have to continue the warrants.
Yeah,
Agendized because.
is it all, oh, yeah, but they're on the website, right, Belle?
yeah,
The appropriate ones are on the website, so is it all right if I just bring up the electronic document and that's what you guys look at? to approve?
Sure, yeah.
Let me just,
Definitely. That's okay. Yeah, because that sounds like Miller's name.
These are
Correct.
how did you get more?
They're Oregon, they go on. They're not in the gun, you know,
These are domestic nuts.
so far. Still very good.
I think I can tell the difference. Is that-
did you find them?
August 21, so here, I'm sorry about that.
Can you put it on a big screen or not? If it's too hard.
No, I probably can't, oh, you know, I disconnected, sorry. When not my
Yeah.
computer. And also Belle is also sharing them here, so.
You can almost read that.
Yeah.
It's a little tiny.
You have to blow it up a little.
The solar inverter, did that get fixed? I see, somebody was out.
No,
It's still out.
It's really,
Yeah, I'm so frustrated.
it's really frustrating and
That's going on forever.
Who's Myers and Dave?
lawyers.
Okay, so I thought whenever it's over 5,000, I assume it's like engineer or the attorneys.
Is mine showing up on the screen or not?
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
really tiny if you could zoom in on it.
Oh, okay, I can try. Sorry, I don't know why it's so tiny.
That was fine. To me,
Zoom, here we go.
fucking to me. List.
Yeah, that's better.
Oh, yeah,
There you go.
there you go.
Yeah.
Great. Anybody have any questions about any of these?
So WRA bike path, are they still, cause I know they. Trying to remember the last, are they still doing work on the bike path or did we have them pause on that? Or is that an old invoice?
They're old invoices, but yeah, basically we have them paused on that. It is very complicated. We actually haven't done all of the payouts because essentially there were multiple projects going on in there. And so I'm still kind of scrutinizing the invoices to see, part of it is that That bike path is grant funded, whereas the other work that was done in there was not grant funded, and so I think it's important if the work that was being done can serve ultimately the biological status of the bike path, it's important to itemize those items as being related to the bike path, so anyways, so yeah, it'll probably be on for a little bit.
Okay.
Work that already-
I would move to approve the warrants.
Yeah, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, meeting closing, materials to be signed, I signed it.
Yeah.
Future agenda items, we've discussed them. Next meeting date,
Yeah.
September something.
September.
18th?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Meeting adjourned.
Thanks, Bill.
Oh, you're welcome. Eventually we'll get this more streamlined, but we're getting there.
Our first time here, so. you
Yeah.
know, that'll work pretty good.
That's good. Yeah. And it's early.
Oh,
Hey, Bill.
Yes.
How
I'm
do
gonna
you,
stop the recording or?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
how do you
Oh,
get,
yeah.
how do you get your water bill in Stinson? Is it an email?
Also see.
Yeah, now